I am so excited to do this podcast with you, Qwantel, because I feel like trying to get it on the books for a while, but well, we're busy.
We're busy. We're running a business, T. Businesses. So
We're running businesses. And this to me, like when you're listening to this, guys, there's so many misconceptions around hiring and what a VA is versus a business manager and when you need what or whatever. And so I'm hoping that bringing my business manager in, you get so much clarity on just all of those questions, the hiring, the role, and just also a look at how Quantel and I work together, because I think that's also fun to kind of see the inside,
absolutely.
Um, so, okay, let's just start out really simple, right? So tell me, VA, OBM, what the hell is the difference?
I mean, I think the most simplest way to put it is manager, right? Like when you think about an actual virtual assistant and manager, some people like to use the term that, a VA is your executor, right? Or like an OBM is your overall for your operations, your systems, your teams, and they manage a bit more than a VA does. So they're your task doer. However, I'm careful when I say that because that makes it seem like the OBM won't step in when they have to. So if our VA is like, if she's gone, if she's sick, I don't want you to have to step in. I'm gonna step in, right? So if I need to create a landing page, if I need to, right, or if I need to set up an email sequence for you, the main difference is that I can take on a bit more responsibility, and I'm not looking at an Asana board at the end of the day. We're actually planning, we're strategizing, we're doing all these things together, and that's the overall thing. So key word there is manager. Your VA is not looking at the overall business. They are just looking at the things that they have to do for you that day.
I also think that so many coaches, they might hire a business mentor or whatever and see that they have a business manager and then they all of a sudden want that. And also when I hear business manager, there's so many other words that come to mind too. Like there's some people say operator, some people say like systems manager. Like there's a million things you can say, but understand that in my opinion, if your business is making less than about 350 to 400K a year, I might even argue and say half a million. Like you really don't need a business manager.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think when it comes to CEOs trying to decide that, there's different stages of where you are in your business. So I always say that there's a foundational CEO, there's a growth CEO, and then of course there's like the scaling CEO. The level at your business T that you're at, you're the high level strategy. So scaling CEOs, they're looking to step back from those operations and being the person who's always on call for those systems and those workflows. Half of the time, they don't even know how to work those things. They just trust the people in their business to work those things for them because they're scaling. They don't have time to think about that. They're thinking about high level strategy versus the actual growth CEO. They're expanding and they need support. So more than likely, they're generating consistent revenue. They're thinking about like they're managing their projects. And so when they hire a VA, I mean not a VA but an OBM, they're thinking about what stage they're at. Foundational CEOs, they're risky. I always tell OBMs, you can work with them. The only sweet scenario that I would say foundational CEOs is what those people that we were talking about, anybody beyond like lower than that 350, that 250, the best case scenario, if you're making 30K and you know that person's going to get to a scaling CEO, that's a sweet situation, right? Like you're going to grow with them versus because some people, we have to start somewhere and everyone's not going to have a growth or a scaling CEO immediately. Sometimes they actually want to grow with that person. They're probably just 1 year into business, but OBMs thrive with the growing and the scaling CEOs because they're established. They have proven business models. We're coming in to enhance and refine, not come in and have to build from the ground up. But again, it could be a sweet spot if you know that person is excelling beyond where they're supposed to be going and you can grow with them. Just know you're going to sacrifice because if pay cuts happen, you're probably going to be the first to go with that foundational CEO. So it's going to be
And
stressful.
and to give you the perspective from the business owner side, right? Like so many business owners are like, I want a full-time person. Okay, well, you quite literally can't pay someone a full-time salary at that level, right?
Yeah.
And as hard as it is to hear, you are not skilled at leading yet. right? And so understand that when you bring somebody in, it's going to take some time, right? I think that
Absolutely.
everybody wants to do business with people that can ultimately be friends or whatever. And
Yep.
having a great working relationship, awesome, right? But I see so many mistakes with coaches that just hire a person they know at the gym or a friend that says they can do it or whatever, and then they don't like the result. Something bad happens, they lose a friendship over it, right? Like people don't actually take the time to hire. And I know I've said this to my clients, and I'm sure I've told you this too, but like when I was looking to hire you, I went through 26 different interviews. I hated all of them. Like there was maybe one person that I said, maybe this person. And I went through Indeed the old fashioned way.
Yeah.
And like it does work, right? Like you're
Yeah,
not
it
just going
does.
to magically have a referral from your business mentor that's perfect. Like, sure, I can think about it, but like an OBM or a setter or a closer, like those integral positions, they're really hard to find. And, you sent me an email and I will never forget. I was like, man, I don't know. Like I've done 26 of these. Like, do we think it's 27? Like, I don't know. And I'm so grateful that I did.
Yeah.
It took me like 60 days of
Yeah.
hiring until I found you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key thing that you said in all this is that you actually went through the hiring process. One thing that I absolutely love about you is that you know what you want. That makes it easier for the people who work with you who know what you want, right? And some people they come in, they're hiring, they want to hire their friends, and like it's the relationship is lax, where they want to hire someone that's close with them. You are working day in and day out with this person, and that changes the trajectory of your business, your mindset. Are you stressed? Does the person you're working with cause you more stress, but you're more stressed about not hiring because you don't want to get rid of anyone? Like it's the dynamics has to be there on a personal level, not too personal, right? Like, but like on a understanding level, a leadership level, can we laugh with one another? Can we joke? Can we be stressed with one another? Like it's there. And so that's why that hiring process, you just can't hire anybody off the street. Like those things have to factor into play. And I think, yeah, it may have took you 26 people, but we've been working with one another for over a year now. Like that's the major thing. And I don't think you should take that hiring process lightly. If anything, this is just
Love
not
that
a
we keep
random
saying over a year, but it's going to be 2 years in like 2 months.
You know? Exactly. So it's like OBMs, that's the difference between us and like VAs mainly as well, right? Like we are in your business and we don't have three, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10 clients. Like VAs can serve several different people at one time because they're just doing those task one-off projects versus OBMs. They're like, this is the client's business. This is who I have, and I can only serve these clients because I'm thinking about their overall operations. That's why we're only supposed to serve 2 to 3 clients, because if you're really managing people's business right, you're dedicated to them. That's why the client pay you a higher fee for that retainer, because that's a dedicated business relationship versus me saying, hey, need anything today? Okay, if you don't need anything today, I'm going to not clock my hours and then go on to the next client. It's not like that.
Right. And also, I think kind of how so many people call themselves like business mentors or fitness coaches or whatever. It's the same thing with VAs and OBMs because people know that coaches like myself might search that on Instagram. And so there are so many different types of VAs because I've had a VA that, we've talked about the terminology, right? Where a VA that's maybe doing some graphics and scheduling emails and doing some payment management. That's kind of like a hodgepodge and somebody that you're not going to find a ton of, right?
Yeah.
Then you may find somebody who's maybe saying they're a VA, but they're more of like a social media manager. Then
Right.
there's setters that call themselves VAs. So like a virtual assistant, in my opinion, like know that that person is likely in their career trying to get to the next level
Right.
in some way. And so if you can articulate business owners, Jesus Christ, know what the fuck you want, okay? Like you have
Oh
to.
my God. Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Because like
Absolutely.
if you get this person, you're like, well, if you have an expectation of what a VA is, I promise you, you're gonna not have that person last very long, right? Like, and I know that that was hard for us at the beginning, right? Because I had so much of a hybrid type of VA, OBM type of role, and you made it very clear, like, hey, I don't do a lot of these tasks. I'll do it for a little bit. I don't do a lot of these tasks, and it
Yeah.
took us a minute to find somebody, right?
Yeah.
And
And I think, but it also shows what type of leader you are to accept that. That is a large problem that a lot of OBMs have when they first get with you. Because let's think about it. If you can get 5 people in one person, you're going to try to take full advantage of that if you possibly can. But think about team, client capacity, overall health. I can do all these things for you, but remember, as I stated earlier, I need to step in where I can. Before we hired our VA, all of the things that were set up for her. She now knows her daily, her weekly, her monthly. She has every SOP that she needs in order to complete her task. If I didn't set up any of that for her, it would have been a shit show when she got hired. And so that is the type of thing that your OBM is there to help you with, to make sure that those things are in place. But I can't continue to be all the things. We fool ourselves forgetting that we only have technically 8 hours in the day to work with our clients, because you're right, I can do all these things, but forgetting that I have 8 hours, it wasn't balancing, right? So I think it's important for the leadership to also understand that too, like, that is one person. That is why she can't do everything. And so the VAs, I get killed all the time. They're like, I'm more than that to my client. I'm their executive person. I do this, I do their websites, I do everything. And I was like, so tell me, how do you feel at the end of the day? Are you okay? Like, how's your week? Like, and they're like, girl, I'm stressed. Exactly. You're one person. You're one person, and you can't do all the things. So while we are full of talents, because Lord knows I am, I am full of talents. I know what I'm good at, and that is helping with the overall and building the systems and the strategy so that when I do pass them off, OBM's pass off games are supposed to be great. Our VA is never asking, well, how's that SOP, or when do you do that? No, it's already done for her because she is verbatim, as you already know. It's already done for her, and she can execute the task. Our goal is to make sure the team members don't have any questions about what they're supposed to be doing. And that's super important. A VA is not going to do that. They're just there, again, to look at that Asana board or whatever project management tool and say, okay, did I do that for the day? Okay, great. I've clocked my hours. That's it.
I know a lot of this can be really intimidating to business owners, right? Because let's be real. I mean, we all start somewhere. Probably like the first time that you took on a new client as an OBM, like your very first client, you probably were, treading lightly. It was
Yeah.
normal. Yeah. And like as you guys are listening to this and you're thinking about making that hire, I don't want any of this to dissuade you at all. The hiring process is so fun, right? Like I
Very.
think so many business owners, we've talked about this all the time. Your business gets stuck for several reasons, but one of the biggest reasons it gets stuck is you're scaling is because you hired the wrong person, because you cut the hiring process in half because you just didn't want to deal with it, right? Or you keep the person in place for too long because you don't want to deal with it. And that will sink a ship.
Agreed. And most people hire, like, several mistakes that I see when people are hiring an OBM is they are not as clear on what they actually need help with. You need to ask yourself, do I need help or am I just overwhelmed? Right? Because sometimes we hire out of overwhelm. Not even, do I really need help? And can I actually let go of control? You let me take control over the things inside of your business so you can have that focus. But most CEOs are hiring with zero clarity. They're hiring and they cannot articulate their needs or their goals or their expectations. And that is the clearest way to a dead road for the relationship when it comes to hiring OBM. You have to have clarity in your business. You have to have a way to communicate exactly what you need. You also need to know exactly what your goals and your expectations are. And again, this isn't to hire anyone to say, oh, I have to have all my shit together. We walk into shit shows all the time when it comes to businesses. Let's be clear about that. But I think it's not hard to sit down and say, here's where I want my business to be, especially if you already have a great mentor like you, right? Like, I'm helping you shape those goals. More than likely, you've already had a coach or someone to help you do that. That goal should not be that hard to get to that next level. Once from the goals, then we can actually set our expectations. Do I need a system for this? Do I need a human for this? But so many people hire with zero clarity, and that's the biggest mistake that I see when people hire OBMs. And we need clarity the time we come in.
One of my favorite things is because I love you and I think are such a good kind of combination and really complement each other in so many ways. And, one thing that I used to teach years ago was trying to like dial in every single system immediately. And what I found, and that was not what I did. Okay.
Yeah.
And what I found is that it really stalled a lot of business owners from gaining that momentum. And so I want business owners to hear this and think, hey, you don't need to have everything figured out. Because when you do get to the place of hiring an OBM, your business is probably half a shit show. You probably are a damn good coach with a few things set in place, but you're probably thinking, okay, I really wish I knew like what my retention was. I really wish I had a better grasp of somebody maybe helping me with support emails. I think it's time to organize XYZ, right? Like, so I want you also to know that when Qwantel and I are saying have your shit together, I really care that you have your ideas in order and that you're not hiring from a place of chaos or scarcity. You're hiring from a place of like abundance, as cheesy as that might sound.
Yeah.
Because remember this, like this person's not going to come in and save your ass. I mean, Qwantel does do all of those things, but Qwantel wouldn't still be here if she felt like she was treading water every day.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love the way you put that because that's so true. Like it's have your ideas clear. Again, like I said, one thing I love about you is it's clear from the moment I wake up. It's not one of those, oh my gosh, she's all over the place. Like if you could just say, okay, here's the idea that I have. OBMs are like, great. Let me tell you, here's a timeline. This is where we're gonna put that. It's even better when the CEO is like, hey, I have an idea. Can you help me with the timeline? But if you have a Taeler like I do, you're like, no, here's the timeline. Now help me put that in order, right? Like, I love that, right? So, but everyone doesn't have that. And even if you aren't that person, that's okay. As long as you know, here's the ideas that I have. Now, can you help me execute them? And that is the main, as well, of course, between VAs and like OBMs is that we're not looking for direction. We want to take the things that you have and say and actually bring them into the tangible because visionaries have so many ideas. They're so brilliant all the time, but we got to reel that in, right? With some perspective and like be able to bring that and put timelines on those things. And so can we put a project to that? How long is that going to take? So just simply having clarity on if you want to launch a program, how are we going to do that? Like, how would you like to do that? And then that person is going to be there to help you execute it.
I think the clear distinction in my brain between the VA and OBM was when I could actually see that growing a seven-figure business wasn't out of reach. If I was still shooting for like a 20K, 30K, not to say those shouldn't be celebrated, but I can't tell you how many people tell me they want an OBM, but they won't spend more than like $2,000. And it's like, well, you're not going to get a business manager for $24,000 a year. I'm sorry, like you're not, right?
Think about any corporate job. You ain't getting them for that. Like,
right.
like,
And even
yeah.
if it is like part-time, which who knows, right? But most OBMs are not doing 10-hour a week retainers, right? They're doing more than that. And so when you feel, and the other thing too is, having you in the business gives me more time to think about the vision and be more innovative. You don't need to have your entire vision figured out. All you need to know is, hey, I wish I could see this data a little more clearly. I wish I could, because, that's been my favorite thing of working with you. Well, I mean, tactically, right? Is you're so quick to, hey, this would be better if we cleaned it up this way. Oh, cool. Didn't think about that, right? Now, that kind of relationship only happened because we got through the first 6 months. And that's the other thing too, is people bring in an OBM or a VA and they're telling me, well, they're not doing anything 30 days in. Well, it takes 60 days to figure your business out.
That's right. That's right. And I think The way that I train my OBMs whenever I'm coaching them is quite honestly, and I know a lot of business owners want you to jump in, but that first month, you're supposed to be doing an audit of the person's business. You're supposed to really be diving in and trying to figure out where things are. Now, of course, there'll be some projects that they probably need you to tackle immediately, like getting those SOPs done, getting those things right. But majority of the time, think about when you're learning a business, if you're in an orientation for any business or any corporate job that you've ever worked for, right? Like you have those 30 days where you're learning the business, you're getting trained, you're doing all these things. You're not going to know off bat what that business has. So having some type of audit, that's what I train my business owner, like my business owners on, like have an audit to say, okay, what does operations, marketing, sales, finance look like for that? Whether that audit takes you 4 weeks or 2 weeks, honey, I don't care. Do an audit on the person's business so that way you're not lost on where they're having bottlenecks, where they're having all these issues. And then that way you're not just jumping in. So like you said, T, it takes about 60 to 90 days to really learn that person's business. Because by the time I get to month 2, now I'm like, what project do you want me to focus on next after this audit? Because this is everything that I found. What's priority for you now? And then by the time we get to month 90, I meant to the month 3, and you're like, okay, I've gotten to month 3. We've set KPIs, we've done certain things, we set up your dashboards, because now you're looking at specific things in your business that you actually want to like start measuring. So we're start looking at those things. And so it's not just a quick, hey, I hired you, immediately jump in. It should never be that way, because no job will ever do that. You go through training. If you hired a setter, that's one thing that kills me, that I laugh at, because you're so excellent, but I see a lot of business owners, like they get so mad so quick because they're like, they ain't doing anything. Well, wait, calm down. Like, what did you train them to do? What did you have ready for them when they came in? And they're like, well, I gave them a couple of SOPs. The training doesn't stop after you did 1 hour. It continues. What do you mean?
It's the
So
same
people have this
thing.
common conception that I hire and then I'm done. I don't have to do anything else. That's
I
not
see
true.
that all the time with setters. I know we're not talking about setters, but like I see that all the time with setters. And I think that we're kind of talking about leadership now in general, but
Yeah.
under like, I do setter placements for clients all the time, right? And yes, you will have a setter that is trained on the process of setting. However, you as the business owner have to train them on your offer. And that takes a lot of time with them, right? I don't think they understand, like when you bring on a setter, I know you want to be in the DMs less, but you're now going to have a full-time job of training somebody so you can start to get out of the DMs, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not, I don't know. And so that's the same thing with business owner because, or a business manager, our first, few months, really the first month was me telling you where everything was,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's
And
normal. Like I was answering questions constantly, little tiny things, but like that's just normal. That's
it
just
is, and a
normal.
lot of people, I don't want to have to hold the person's hand. With an OBM, you really don't have to hold their hand. They pretty much come in with their own set agendas. They just asking you just for a little bit more of your time because, hey, I'm new here. Like, I don't know like everything and where it is in your business. And you need to be willing to do that. So people who are just so quick to say, oh, I want to dump everything on you. Again, ask yourself, am I hiring out of overwhelm? Or am I hiring because I actually need help? And when you just dump everything on that person, you hired out of overwhelm. You didn't hire because you were needing actual real help.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, what would you say? I mean, we're kind of going into leadership, I guess techniques, if you will, but you are oftentimes or potentially one of the first, if not the first, like bigger hire for a business owner.
Absolutely.
So, what would you say is kind of like that desired communication cadence? I'm sure that's going to be different for everybody, but what does that look like?
I think understanding boundaries up front, like what you're willing to do, like work hours, all of these things, because realistically you are pretty much that business owner's go-to for everything. So stay up front. Like I this I love visionaries, like I love business owners. I love, because sometimes I'll tease T and I'm like, don't send me 5 o'clock a.m. morning, like
Let's be very specific. You tell me not to send you treadmill talks.
exactly, exactly. Treadmill walks. Because I'm like, these brain dumps, can I catch up? Am I supposed to keep notes? Whatever. But even that like little joke between us, it's like we can talk about those things. But even if you're like, please don't expect for me to send you a message back at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can brain up on me all day long. Just please don't expect for me to answer, right? Like just having communication like that, or mainly communication, healthy communication that says, okay, how well did I do? Like, are you happy? Are you not happy? Because as quick as we are to get hired, we are also quick to be fired as well. Because the business owner doesn't know how to handle hard conversations or tough conversations. I don't have that problem with you, but a lot of business owners start learning with this role, they have to actually step up in their leadership role and say things that make them probably feel uncomfortable, like, you're not helping me, could you help me? Or you actually have to state things about what you need. I love you, again, because you're very clear about what you need. Some business owners have no clue about what they need. They're just like, you're supposed to know that already. That's the biggest mistake. No one's supposed to know that already. Like no one's going to know that. So having clear communication again about what you need, also clearly communicating about what you want to see. Because I know when you have the people who are probably micromanaging and they're over your shoulder and they're doing all these things, visibility is the biggest issue. They're not saying, oh, I want to be on your back. They're simply saying, I don't have enough visibility into what you're doing. So therefore, I'm starting to question the value and the ROI that you're bringing to my business. So instead of you getting upset as the OBM, give them that visibility. You want to see a dashboard as to what's being contributed? Great. You want to see the task for the entire team to make sure that we're all on track and that we're not at capacity before you assign a point, like an assignment. Great, here's what you need. When CEOs have visibility, you barely hear from them because they have everything in front of them. Versus when they don't, they start questioning, you start leaving them in dark rooms, and then the next thing you know, it's like these random texts. So I think it's the responsibility of the OBM to provide that visibility, but it's also the responsibility for the business owner and the CEO to communicate what they want to see so that we can deliver on that. That is to me a healthy communication.
Yeah, I agree. I think it takes time too, right? Like you're not going to jump into a new hire and have it all figured out because
Mm-mm.
one thing that I think after as many people that I've worked with in general, not OBMs, but just in general, everyone has a different style of conflict resolution. Everyone has a different style of feedback. Everyone has a different style of receiving feedback. And one thing that that was really helpful for me with a lot of team hires was having those like personality tests for them to do. And then
Mm-hmm.
you understand like the disc analysis is one of my favorites, but then understanding where a team member falls on that so that you can see, oh, okay, well, if there's a problem, here's how they typically like to solve that or whatever. Because
Absolutely.
what I want you to do is you need to make sure you're not hiring doppelgangers to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's why like one of my favorite books that I read in the last year was the like set 6 types of working genius because it shows you, oh, I'm that and oh, that's why I'm attracted to that like it's really helpful. And so when I'm looking for a team hire, I'm looking for somebody who is, yes, compatible with my personality, but is complementary to my skill set and possesses
That's
what I
right.
do not have. Because if you
Mm-hmm.
and I operated the exact same way,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't move at the same pace that we do because we would have a big blind spot.
That's right. Yep.
And
And
so
I
I
think
think that's really important.
those personality tests are huge. And I always tell people, like, from the moment that you're end up hiring with someone, like, just take one. Like, just, it's not gonna hurt you or anything, but knowing your working style and knowing where you fall short and knowing how you like to handle conflict, or just even just knowing, like, overall how you handle certain situations, not just in a project basis, because a lot of people just look at their hard skills, right? I can come in, I can know all the tech, I can have all these specific skills, I can probably rock a dashboard, whatever, but completely forget about the soft skills. And that's where I feel like those personalities has come into play. Like, am I emotionally intelligent enough to be like, don't send, Tia a text message that she knows what she's gonna be uncomfortable with? Or you know what I mean? Like, or do I have time blocking skills? Do I have good time management skills? A lot of people sleep on those soft skills that we need, and that's huge in this role. It's not just the hard skills that you have to come with. Yes, anybody can learn tech, anybody can do all these things, they will. But this role is just as important in the soft skills, and learning where you fall short is going to be key for sure.
What would you say your favorite project management tool is?
On a personal note, I like Airtable because of the customization, but for a team note, Asana all day long. It is so simple, it's straight to the point. You want to get shit done, it is Asana for me. Like
Why
working
Asana
team.
over ClickUp?
ClickUp is glitchy as fuck. It really is. And I think with all the changes that they want to have, like they have so many bells and whistles. I love Asana for simplicity. And I feel like eventually bells and whistles start screaming and yelling if they're not working properly. And so I'll tell you a story. I had a nightmare basically with a client that I previously worked with in ClickUp, and they had just released their Google Docs. So that client, they're not their Google Docs, but their doc feature. And the client swapped all her SOPs. I was like, "Are you sure you don't want to keep them inside of Google Docs?" She was like, "No, I'm fine. I want to bring everything over to ClickUp." She did it. She sure did. And something glitched in the system. All her SOPs, all 600 of them got deleted. The support team, nothing. And I was like, I will never use the system again. They are so glitchy. Asana, I have never had that problem with because the platform is simple and it does exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It's a project management tool. It doesn't try to do all those extra things.
Also, like save your shit in Google. Why would you have deleted those?
Hello. Hello. That's what I said. But the person that I am, I definitely had to back up. But that was my proof to her, apparently, that you weren't supposed to do that. Because I do a backup for everybody that I work with. But yeah, that was a nightmare for her. She's like, "You saved this?" Like she was in tears on the phone because I was just like, "Of course I saved it because I ain't never heard no problem with Google. You've never heard anybody say Google Docs failed on me versus a ClickUp software or something." Mm-mm.
What is one way that you have used Zapier in a way that's like maybe more unique? Something where you're like, oh, maybe people don't know you can do this. Something like fun that you've created recently.
I think the thing that I was most proud of with Zapier is that Zapier has like documents that they can create for you inside of Google Docs. So after I taught my OBMs how to, after they actually did their business audit, I was like, business owners don't want to have to log inside of Airtable. They ain't trying to see any of that. They just want a simple Google Doc. So with all the data that they had inside of Airtable, I created a way for them to actually just click a button in Airtable and the report is generated for them inside of Google Docs. And so I love that because I'm like, they don't want all the bills. Like if you send them a simple Google Doc and say, "Hey, here's everything in your business," they're gonna appreciate that instead of sending them to some complicated system that they actually, probably wouldn't know how to function and everything. So I was really proud of that because I'm like, at the end of the day, simplicity wins, and that's what people need. So yeah.
So I will say, not you, but there are definitely operators where it's like you can make something as complicated as you want to. You can stack zaps on whatever, you know what I mean, on dashboards, on fucking dashboards. And there's even times where this is how it's so funny. I'm calling myself out on this one because I'm so guilty of being like, let me look at the Google Doc. Like, let me just go to the Google Doc.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, you know what would be really cool, Q? If we like had XYZ and you're like, that's yep, that's this view in Airtable. I'm like, nice, love that. Okay, cool. Like there are just certain things where it's not in my daily workflow to look at, right? And so that's just again knowing who you work with. But what
Yeah.
is your favorite project that you're working on right now in the business? My business.
I would say that was a good segue. Like a simple way for you to be able to view the team's capacity, like before you're assigning stuff. So I love that. Like I'm literally at the very end because I finally found a way to connect it. But I I love doing that because again, visibility is a huge thing. And so I know you are very thoughtful in how you think about like, hey, I don't know where you are. Like I don't know, like you are always, and I never want you to have to feel like, am I bothering that person? First of all, you never are bothering us, but it's just a matter of you should never feel that way before you do assignments, right? So I think you having that visibility to see what is she working on this week, like that's not you micromanaging, that's not anything, because you're driving a business and knowing where people are at that week at any given time on top of our daily tasks, on top of projects that we're currently working on, is super helpful to you. So I'm enjoying that, and I'm excited for you to actually finally be able to see that, so you can feel good when you start assigning or making decisions to like assign us a new thing. But what I love too, though, is that our output is so quick now. You could be like, "Here's a lead magnet." I'm like, "It's done tomorrow." So
Really,
that's it.
how quickly are we doing lead magnets now?
Literally the same day. The same day. It's crazy. Like you have such a good system. If you assign it that day, we set up the email sequence. It's literally the same day. And when we do testing the following day, but like it doesn't take us more than 24 hours for the whole output.
I had a memory that popped up on my Instagram today from 6 years ago, and it was me advertising this, my very first macro guide. And in the story, I was like, I've been working on this for months.
Clarity on that audience, right? Like you know your people so well, you can produce a lead magnet in a day, T. That's crazy. That's crazy. And
And
your
keep
systems are
saying
so
this,
set up.
like you're saying this, but we've done that like so many times this year.
We have. We have. You have done so many lead magnets, and it's just March. It's just March.
I love
It's
it.
just March.
This is why I'm so excited for this project that you're working on that you brought up about the visibility, because we're now in a place now where we've got a leadership team. And so it has nothing to do with micromanaging and everything for my team also to know where my capacity is.
Correct. Yeah.
And I feel like we're in this place where like all of us are so good at like doing what we need to do. We have so much autonomy. And that's what I love about it is like I'm never worried about things not getting done.
Right.
But as you keep growing the business, it's making sure that some things like because whether it's you or whoever, you may prioritize something in your brain where I was like, wait, no, that actually, I don't want that to be priority. Let's make sure this
Right.
is, and then we can kind of
Exactly.
communicate together. So I'm super excited for that.
Hmm.
And that all stemmed, remember, that all stemmed from me sending you a random Loom video of how I keep tabs of my like weekly and monthly tasks.
Again, it's helpful to have those type of brain dumps, though, right? Because I can't get inside your brain, so I got that, and of course, just for everybody listening, the nerd in me is like, I'm gonna put this in a starter some way, right? Like, because I'm excited about it. Like, but again, you're still the perfect example of I for everybody listening to this, I don't want everyone thinking that T is like this master whiz in systems. Like, she sticks true to what she knows. She sticks true to her Google Docs. She sticks true to her Asana. She sticks true to her Zoom. Like she knows her system. So although I'm advanced in the systems and everything else, having an OBM in your business is kind of like having a cherry on top because it's like, okay, great. You can make sure that you manage all that, but can I clearly understand like how that helps me? How is it moving the business forward? How can I progress that? And so I love that because I'm not forcing her into like these fancy systems. Don't think that you have to be a tech whiz just because you have a person in your business that helps you with that. Like it doesn't have to be on that level, but I love being able to take, like you said, that simple Loom video and saying, hey, this is everything that you said. Now this is that inside of Asana. What do you want to change? Where do you want to put that? Because even if you don't use it as often, at least you have the option to see that timeline view that you want. And that's important. Because when you cranking out lead mags as many as she does, you need a timeline.
You and my content, you know? But yeah, I mean, like it's so
Yeah.
true. I mean, we're always working on so many projects at one time. And some of the
Yeah.
projects are like 2-day projects, some of them
Correct.
like long term. But
Yeah.
the fact that it's March and we've got two events this year, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
we're
Exactly.
moving.
We're moving
So I
for
think
sure.
that's something that I want business owners to understand is like before you even think about hiring, you have to first get a hold of your own shit, like your content, your sales, your
Oh my
acquisition, because
goodness.
an OBM is somebody that is, yes, there is ROI, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not like an instant thing you're going to see. It's you got to pour into that person, and that's going to take
Mm-hmm.
more time. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not, oh, I hired Quantel and now it's like I have all the time to do my content. No, it's I
Mm-hmm.
hired Quantel and now for the next 90 days, I got to make sure she is set up for success and that I've
Absolutely.
really implemented what's next. And I think that people really don't get that.
And it's so funny because on my website, first of all, I have a very filthy mouth. So it is what it is. But like on my page, I put, and I was like, one thing I want you to be clear is that this is not a hit it and quit it type relationship. Like we're in this thing. Like we're in a actual relationship, like in the most healthiest terms possible, right? Like we're not just it's one of those things you get there, you're 90 days, okay, you're dating, whatever, but like at some point you're like, I'm committed. Like this is who I am. And so that does take time. So I want everybody listening to understand that if you expect for this to be just a regular contract relationship, mistake number one. It's not. It is a very clear relationship that this person is in it with you for the long haul. Like, let's go get matching t-shirts. Like, that's where
I
we
want
are.
a calendar. I
We
want
are
a calendar.
right? But like you're in it for the long haul. I don't look at this and be like, oh, I'm gonna only serve, Taylor's business for like another year. No, I'm hoping that she signs with me for another year and another year. And I want to continue that relationship because that type of consistency in your business is what's going to give you peace of mind at night, knowing that you have a consistent person. If something goes wrong or if so, instead of switching out all the time. This is not that type of relationship. So if you're definitely not ready to be with this person when you're also thinking about hiring, think about that long haul relationship. You may not know it up front immediately, and that's okay. But you will eventually over time know, like, oh, this person is for me. And if you feel like after that 3 months that person isn't, you probably have to make a very hard decision because, again, this is not a high turnover role. It's supposed to be with you for a very long time.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, team hiring is so challenging because we could spend so much time talking about leadership,
Yeah.
but I mean, I can't say it enough. This is the number one reason, in my opinion, that six-figure business owners can't get to seven.
Yeah.
It's because they are either shortcutting the team process and or they can't lead. And I
Correct.
think that the default setting is, well, every VA sucks. No, you did something wrong,
That
right?
is correct.
If there is a pattern of no VA staying with you, what is the common denominator?
That is so true. That is so, and what you said earlier with having your content creation done, having your systems in place, like I love the fact that I'm not worried about your lead generation or your marketing or you have mastered that part. And I think, especially when I train my OBMs, when we're looking for our clients, we aren't looking for people with lead generation problems. Now, here's the difference. There's a difference between having high and low seasons and stuff like that. That's every business. The business has their seasons, but I'm not looking to be with someone who's like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Can you help me with my content creation this week? Can you help me? Like, what? What are we doing right now? Huh? I can't, I'm not your social media manager. What is going on right now? I don't have to worry about that with you. You are months ahead of time. And even if people aren't months, because T's crazy, everybody. Like, okay, like she's months, okay. But even if you just have 2 weeks ahead of time, that's not a problem, right? But like, we're not coming in. So if you tell me that you have a production problem with email or just even small lead magnets or getting those leads, we're not looking for a lead generation problem. That means that there's not going to be anything to manage whenever that person comes in. So you just have to be having those things together is super helpful for the person that ends up hiring you so that we can continue to help you with those higher level things. So again, you're not a perfect being. You don't have to be perfect, but even at the bare minimum, knowing how you operate is going to be so key. If T didn't know how she wanted things to be and how she operates and says, no matter what, my content needs to go out on this time. I post this many times a week. I do this. Like those things have to be in place. And then we follow that lead to say, okay, based on everything that she has, this is what this is supposed to be.
So, being an OBM, I know you don't have, well, you do kind of now have more of like a niche, but I know you've worked with quite a few businesses. Obviously, you don't work with competing businesses, but I would love to know because I think this is helpful for others to hear. You jumped in my business. At what point maybe it was a moment for you or whatever, but at what point did you realize, okay, like I want to be here for the long haul? Like what kind of made that switch from like, okay, I'm still feeling it out to like, okay, I think I'm in it?
Good question. Well, one, I was very clear on my niche, and you were the perfect ideal client on my niche. So my niche is group program and mastermind. I always tell the business owner, if you know your niche specifically, and again, I don't tell people to immediately niche down, like figure out what works for you. But I have been in the industry for almost 5 years by the time we got one another. So I was very clear about who I wanted to serve. And so once I knew my niche, I also knew who my ideal client was. It's so funny because when we first got on our call, we both said growth partner at the same time on the call. And I was like, okay, that's scary because I just talked to my business coach about that. And she said growth partner. So it was like, what? But what clicked for me after I worked with you for probably like 3, 4 months, um, and I finally like, of course, I was looking at the overall business. I had learned the business. I was like, wait, she has a mastermind and she has a group program. And it's like at the same time, this is like the perfect ideal fit for what I want to do. But what was clear for me was always you were very, again, consistent. You're one of the most consistent people on the planet, as I always say. And OBMs need consistency in order to make it feel like we're making some type of change. Too many business owners are quick to have an idea, change it, change it, change it. And so, what I loved about your business model was that you were very clear. I have an offer. Now, how many ways can I flip and say this offer? How many ways can I change this offer? So, when you have too many changes in your business, you're going to immediately already feel like the OBM ain't bringing you no ROI. I felt an immediate sense of peace with that consistency, and that's what made me stay. Because we need, and not to say that you can't ever change up anything, but it's one of those things where you have a proven business model and you have said, how many ways can I tell people about FCA? How many ways can I tell people about Path to 4%? But when you change and it's saying, you know what, we're blah 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 agency today. We're blah 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 this. And it's like the OBM's like, okay, what are you? Like what what are we doing?
I agree.
So
I think the core offer has to stay the same. If you're at the level of hiring an OBM, what changes is how we market those offers.
exactly. Exactly. And so having that type of consistency allows for you to see the changes because we've matriculated so much with your systems and your processes since we've gotten together, but that's because we were able to refine as we went on. And you will never see the value of an OBM if you keep changing stuff and if you're not refining that one thing. The beautiful thing about any data or anything that you see is change over time. But you won't notice that if you're not trying different things with that same consistent thing. And so that's huge. And so for me, when I found peace in that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can grow with this woman. Like, this is good. She's not changing her mind 24/7. This is great. And so, again, that doesn't lock you down in, oh, I can't produce new offers. No, have consistent offers. And then we can have those fun things that you eventually do. But how strong is that one core offer? And that's what the OBM grows on. We grow on your offers to make sure that that is constantly refined and enhanced.
I agree. I agree totally. Yeah, I mean like this again, we could talk forever on team hires,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I'm always so curious because, I'm very fortunate that my team stays for a long time, right? And that's not because I'm perfect. I'm far from it. It's because I'm very open. I communicate. Like when you tell me stories about clients that like you haven't heard from in a week, I'm like, in what world? If you don't hear from
Right,
me for like a day, and then
right.
it's like, and then if you don't, I told you the day before that you weren't going to hear from me.
Exactly. Exactly. Hey, I'm gonna be ghost tomorrow. Every single time. Every single time. Hey, I'm gonna be out of pocket tomorrow because I'm going into an X hole, right? Whatever that hole is, if it's a content hole, if it's a podcast, whatever. I know what hole you're in that day, okay? If it's a client hole, okay? I know what hole you're in that day. And so if I gotta go searching for you in that hole, I'm gonna find you.
And then it's like always hey, I know you're in your blank hole, but I have a question for you. It's always the hole. Yeah, I know.
It's
It's
hard,
true.
I promise.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, that's true. But like, yeah, but people go ghost on you. I even had like a client, the type of OBM clients that you work with, and one of them is the ghost client. And then all of a sudden they pop out of nowhere. I have this idea, and you're like, hey, where have you been? Like, what's going on? Well, we need to make this happen right now. Like, there are people like that that actually exist. They will pay you all the money in the world. Just because a client pays you consistently doesn't mean it's a good relationship. They go ghost on you. So you really can't make a change in their business. And again, they're like, you're not making any impact on my business. Well, it would help if you showed up to one business meeting like that we have assigned. And that's another thing too that a lot of business owners and thankfully like our schedule has gotten to where we can say, do you want to meet this week, do you not? But I
Yeah.
think it's important in the very beginning that you do meet consistently so that you can get on some type of cycle and cadence, like to understand that. And eventually you don't have to be locked in stone with that, but like because that relationship will develop over time. But that consistent communication to say what you need, you're learning one another, it's so crucial in the first 90 days. Set those meetings, and they don't have to be like set structure. I always encourage people, if you're going to do your meetings, if you're going to do those 4 in the month, let the very first one be an end of month planning meeting. Let the second one, the 2 in between, be project status meetings, and the last one be a planning meeting for that month so that you can follow on that. And then, of course, it's if at the end of the quarter, let that be a quarterly planning meeting if you want to do that. So, because sometimes, or if you want to have a sporadic meeting to say, hey, we really need to spend our meeting time on focusing on this, which is what we do all the time too. Like, we need to really focus on SCA, or we really need to focus on X, right? So, we should be able to have that, but not wanting to meet with your client again. You hire out of overwhelmed and you just wanted to dump your business on someone, don't do that, because at the end of the day, this is still your business. It's not the OBM's business. It's not anyone's team that you hired. And a lot of people are like, well, I hired help. I should be able to focus and be the CEO in my business. Being the CEO doesn't mean that you just step away completely. It means that you're now leading. And if you can't do that, let's go back and get help on how you can best lead, because whoever you hire is still going to need you to be a leader.
I think our meeting cadence, like what really, in my opinion, helped us gel was when we had that cadence of we would do like a 20-minute meeting on Mondays and just be like, this is what's going to get done this week. And then we'd have a midway meeting and be like, okay, how are we doing? Are we good until Friday? And that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that that seems like overkill to some of you, but you and I are so good at being like, do we need a meeting? No. But
Right.
I think it's because we also have like deep dives more frequently as the business got
Correct.
bigger.
Yeah.
And while we have a 30-minute standing just in case, I feel like you and I are like, hey, we need a deep dive on X this time. Like, let's sidebar that. So I agree. I think go into it with some expectations, but also be ready to articulate your needs, right? Like Qwantel knows that if I don't hear from her for a day, I'm gonna be worried, right?
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly.
you
Yep.
know, and not in a way where I'm like I don't trust her, but because she set the precedent that like she has a fast response time and we communicate frequently. If I don't hear from her, I'm like, okay, something's wrong, something's going on.
Correct.
Right. And so,
Absolutely.
like, same with me. If you don't hear from me,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be like, are you okay? Are you
Right,
good?
right.
So,
And again, you establish those relationships. This is one of the most closest people I think outside of like your salesperson, like because sales and ops equals money. It's as simple as that, right? So your leadership team is your sales and ops, and then we are making sure that everybody that's coordinated with the setters and the teams and like the contractors, the videographers, the graphic designers, like the whole team matters, the account managers, all of that for your specific business are in place. But like if sales and ops ain't together, we gonna have an issue, right? So I think having that clear communication about what you expect and all those things really matter. And so like you said, our cadence is great, but that's because we set the precedent like, okay, do you want to communicate with me during this time? Hey, I'm just going to send you a message, but that doesn't mean that you have to respond like that. Those things are just all there in cadence. And I always say, I love you. Okay, this is what I'm focused on this week. Like it's just out of nowhere. I'm
With
like,
a check,
okay,
with
well,
like a 1, 2, 3 and priorities too. I'm like, here's my priorities: 1, 2, 3. If time,
yes,
4, 5.
yes, yes, you are a unicorn because I promise you'll be like, well, at least I know what you're thinking about. Let me go in and change the meeting notes, right? Like,
Even even if I like brain dump on you, and I feel like that's what's been so, I think, funny about us is I do so well with structure, as you know, but I think you and I meshing our structures and finding a balance of that.
yeah, mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like that
Mm-hmm.
took us time to figure
Yeah,
out
you did, yeah,
because you had a structure and
yeah,
I didn't think that I had one, but I guess like in my brain I did. You know what I mean? So it's just it's funny. It's been such a fun evolution, and
yeah,
I just want anything listening to know that like when I first hired Quantel, yes, I thought she was going to be awesome on the call, but did I think that like we were going to be, did I think we are going to have the relationship we had today? I didn't know. And so I want you to make sure that when you're hiring somebody, yes, you want the personalities to obviously be complementary and work together, but don't hire someone because you just thought they were funnier than the other person or think that they remind you of your best friend versus the other person, because that person will grow on you, right? The more they're in your business, and you just literally never know. I can't tell you how many times people have hired a friend or someone else's VA thinking it was going to
right,
be the same relationship. And like,
right,
okay, I'm glad you hired the other person's VA, but like, you're not that business owner.
right,
I mean, I could
exactly.
literally, not that I am going to, but like you could literally go work with another one of my clients
Yeah.
hypothetically, and it would be a totally different experience.
Well, I have a no a
Well,
non-compete
that's
rule.
why I said like you already know that's not happening, but like I'm saying, but see,
Absolutely, but yeah,
I'm spoiled because you coach my clients in Slack. So my clients
absolutely.
get your I guess the spider web that is Quantel. But
They do.
I'm gonna make sure that I link obviously your Instagram below, and Quantel does trainings for OBMs. And if you are an OBM listening to this, then she's got an awesome community that she's created. If you want to share anything about that, but I feel like that's just your bread and butter, man.
It is. I absolutely love coaching OBMs. And so I started seeing though in the industry that we're in. So thankfully you have a fitness coach academy for all the fitness people listening, right? Like when you join Taylor's program, she gives you the heart and like she actually gives you the meat inside of there, like inside of the program and like the actual how in the program. But a lot of OBM certifications that I saw, they just gave you the what. And if I wanted the what, I could have just went to YouTube for that. Like, I need to know how to actually do this role. Like, every person that I got on a call with. So for almost 6 months, I'm not even 6 months, 3 months straight, I did OBM free coaching calls, and everybody said the same exact same thing. And they were just like, "Hey, I'm I got more from this call than I got from anything else." And it was like, you actually told me what I could do in this role. And so for over a year, I had been building this back end of the actual OBM community. And I was like, I don't want it to be a group program. I just want it to be a community where they can just come pay a minimal fee of like a membership and subscription. And so inside the community, I'm giving them everything but the kitchen sink is what I say. Like they are getting everything that they need. And so it's called Back Office Blueprint Community. And so it's just basically giving them everything they need to operate on their own personal back office as well as their client's back office for their business and actually know how to run the role. How do you do client reports? How do you actually do an audit in your client's business? How do you everything? How do you manage the team, run the teams? How do you operate Airtable for your client's business? Like all of that. And so I wanted them to have that because again, we join these fluffy programs. Thankfully, there's not that inside of fitness because of FCA, but there are a lot of programs that are offering these fluffy offers and they're very expensive and they don't give you the how. And I wanted to give the OBMs the how. So now they have it.
So now they have it. Yeah, I know. And you've been talking about this for so long. So it's
I
like
know.
literally so long. So yes, if you want to connect, I'm linking Q's details below. Feel free to click. She'll tell you that she needs to post more content, but she's working on it. So I'm just
I'm working
kidding.
on it. I'm working on
Honestly,
it.
though, if you have like this crazy like 2 times a day, I'd be like, what's happening? Like I feel like
If
that
you
makes
ever
sense.
see me posting 2 times a day, you know that I scheduled the heck out of
Yeah,
that.
I'm just like, what? No, so like it makes sense to me. I will say, when I was first looking for a VA, I used to be so skeptical when I saw a VA that had like just perfect content and all of it. Cause I'm like, if you're doing all of this, how do you have time to be in your clients' businesses? Like I'm
Mhm.
telling you right now, like even my business mentor, when I
Yeah.
found him, 700 followers, crap on his last post was, I think, from a video that I shared a year ago. Like, because he's
We just
busy.
trying to run these businesses like and to be honest, our lead generation system isn't coming from social media. That's for OBMs, not for like
Yeah.
fitness coaches and all like for OBMs, like because we're not trying to have too much high volume. You need the high volume for your coaching business. So we really ain't out there just doing, crazy dances and stuff for Instagram and stuff because we're not trying to have, but we do want to stay relevant. So posting content is very important. It's just not our volume doesn't need to be as high because once we get our clients, it's kind of like, I ain't trying to let nobody go. Like, this is where
No,
we
it's
are.
so true. I mean, it's so true. But I hope this was helpful. I just want everyone to know that while we dove into a lot, when you are hiring somebody, definitely take your time.
Yes.
Do not rush that process. Um, because I'm telling you, like I know it sounds like it's using Indeed and taking the time and doing multiple round interviews and all of that. But I promise you, it will make you such a better leader. And you will also see of your candidates, like who's actually meant to be with you.
Yep. I love that. And just
Thanks,
hire with
Raquel.
clarity.
Thanks for hanging out with me.
You are most welcome. I'm excited. Thank you for having me.